They chose a dark path and refused to stop. They were not confused about what they were doing. They were warned. More than once, every time an attack failed, every time you remained standing, and every time another opportunity to walk away appeared. These two people were being shown the same truth. God had placed a boundary around your life, but they refused to respect it. You chose a different path. You kept your hands clean even when they provoked you. You continued praying when they wanted you bitter. You trusted God when their words were designed to make you question your worth. They expected their cruelty to change your character, but you remained consistent. No accusation could pull you away from what you knew was right. That consistency disturbed them. They could not understand why someone they had targeted so relentlessly was still moving forward. Instead of examining their own behavior, they decided the answer was to become more aggressive. Each failed attempt increased their resentment. Every closed door made them search for another entrance. If you know God kept your heart from becoming like the people who attacked you, write 77 in the comments and declare, "I stayed on God's path." Your restraint was never weakness. It was proof that their darkness had not entered you. God's patience gave them room to reconsider. It gave them time to recognize the danger of continuing, but they interpreted that patience as permission. They believed the absence of immediate consequences meant heaven was ignoring what they were doing. They were wrong. These two people crossed one boundary after another because they believed nothing could stop them. What they failed to understand was that every warning they rejected was bringing them closer to a point from which they could no longer retreat. And once they decided they would not stop on their own, God began stopping them. Number 1. Two people worked together to send spell work against you. Two people made an agreement against you. One carried the desire to see you brought down, and the other agreed to help make it happen. They may not have performed the same role, but they served the same purpose. Both wanted darkness placed over your life, and both continued even after every attempt failed. One may have initiated the attack, while the other supplied the help needed to carry it out. One may have spoken your name with hatred, while the other took those words and turned them into action. The exact division of their roles does not change the truth. Neither person was innocent. Each had an opportunity to refuse, yet both chose participation. Their spell work was accompanied by repeated talk behind your back. They spoke about you in ways designed to make your character appear questionable. They twisted details, repeated accusations, and tried to create suspicion among people who did not know the whole truth. What they could not accomplish privately, they attempted to reinforce through words. They watched for evidence that their efforts were succeeding. They expected you to become confused without knowing why. They wanted your peace disturbed, your confidence weakened, and your ability to move forward reduced. They believed that if enough pressure surrounded you, you would eventually lose your direction. But you did not collapse. That should have ended their agreement. Instead, your survival intensified their resentment. Every time you recovered, they tried again. Every time God opened another door, they looked for a different way to interfere. They interpreted your continued progress as a personal offense because it exposed the limits of what they could do. They did not send one attack and walk away. They returned to the same intention repeatedly. More hostile words were spoken. More secret actions followed. More effort was invested in harming someone who had never declared war against them. Their agreement gave them false confidence. Each person made the other feel justified. When one became frustrated, the other kept the resentment alive. When one questioned why nothing was working, the other encouraged another attempt. Together, they created a circle in which neither person had to confront the wickedness of what they were doing. One of them may have believed that using another person created distance from the act. They may have thought God would only hold the person who carried it out responsible, but heaven sees more than visible hands. God sees the person who requested the harm, the person who agreed to assist, and the intention that connected them. They hid their actions because they knew those actions could not survive exposure. There was no honest conversation with you, no attempt to resolve a real disagreement. They chose secrecy because secrecy allowed them to attack without answering for what they had become. Yet you were never required to discover every name, conversation, or hidden act in order to be protected. God witnessed what you could not see. God heard what was said when you were absent. God saw the moment two people agreed that your pain would become their shared objective. They believed their agreement gave them twice the power against you. What it truly did was place two names beneath the same act. And their goal went far beyond disturbing your peace. They wanted to remove you from the path God had already appointed you to walk. Number 2, they wanted to remove you from the path God gave you. Their purpose was more serious than causing temporary pain. These two people wanted to remove you from the path God had placed before you. They saw your life continuing to move forward despite their hostility. They wanted that progress stopped. You remained consistent. You did not allow their attacks to turn you into a cruel person. You did not abandon what you knew was right, simply because doing right became difficult. Even when you could not explain the pressure around you, something within you kept directing your steps. It moved you away from danger. It led you back toward God. That consistency became a problem for them. They needed you to lose your direction before they could call their plan successful. They wanted you overwhelmed and questioning everything God had shown you. They believed confusion would eventually pull you away. They thought you would leave the very path they could not enter. They did not only want to disturb your peace, they wanted to ruin what God was developing through you. They wanted the pressure to become so heavy that you would surrender your future without understanding why. In their minds, your loss would satisfy their resentment. They were willing to make you the sacrifice. They wanted you to carry the pain created by their choices. Meanwhile, they expected to continue living without consequence. They wanted your strength reduced, so theirs would appear greater. They wanted your progress interrupted, so they would no longer have to confront what your life revealed about them. But you could not be offered as a sacrifice for someone else's jealousy. Your life did not belong to these two people. Your future was not theirs to place beneath their anger. Your purpose was not theirs to cancel. They could direct hostility toward you, but they could not command God to remove his hand from your life. They could desire your downfall, but that desire gave them no authority over your steps. They could attempt to cover your path in darkness. They could not erase the direction God had already established. This is what they failed to understand. You did not depend only on personal strength. They were attacking a life God had already decided to preserve. Their efforts should have left you unable to continue. According to everything they attempted, you should have lost your direction long ago. Yet you remained on the path. You continued choosing what was right. You continued trusting God. You did so even when you could not understand the resistance you were facing. Every time you remained standing, their confidence weakened. They began to realize they did not simply need to try harder. Something greater than their hidden work stood between you and the outcome they wanted. They could not see the protection, but they could see its evidence. You were still here. Your mind had not become theirs to control. Your connection with God had not been severed. The future they wanted to destroy had not disappeared. If you know God kept you standing when hidden attacks were meant to remove you, write Amen in the comments. Let it be your declaration that no darkness can cancel what God has established for your life. That realization frightened them. It removed the explanation they had been using. They could no longer tell themselves their plan only needed more time. They had to confront another possibility. Their spell work had never possessed the authority they believed it carried. You were not preserved because you knew every hidden detail. You were preserved because God knew. God saw the intention before it became an action. God saw the agreement between the two people. God saw the purpose behind everything they directed toward you. Their greatest mistake was believing darkness could persuade God to abandon someone he had chosen to defend. They thought enough pressure would remove you from your appointed path. Instead, every failed attempt revealed how firmly God had placed you there. They could not make you the sacrifice. They could not redirect your future. They could not separate you from the protection surrounding your life. Their plan had nowhere left to go. Everything they released remained under the authority of God. Number 3. God sent all the spell work. Back x10. Everything they sent against you had to go somewhere. It did not disappear when it failed to reach its purpose. It did not dissolve because you remained standing. God blocked it from completing its assignment. Then he turned its full weight back toward the people who released it. These two people believed every failed attempt was gone. They assumed they could send more without answering for what came before. But one attack was added to another. One hidden act joined the next. Everything accumulated while they continued believing they were safe. They did not understand what they were building. What returned was no longer a single act. It carried the weight of every repeated attempt. It grew like a snowball moving downhill. By the time it reached the people who created it, it carried far more force than either of them was prepared to receive. This is why everything is striking them at once. There is no space between one consequence and the next. Before they can understand the first disturbance, another one appears. Before they can regain control, something else begins moving against them. They wanted confusion placed over your mind. Now, they cannot understand why their own lives feel unfamiliar. They wanted fear to follow you. Now fear is waiting for them when they wake. They wanted you trapped beneath something you could not explain. Now they are searching for an escape from consequences they cannot command. This is not your revenge. You did not send anything back. You did not have to speak against them, follow them, or repeat their methods. God handled what entered his hands. If you have watched God protect you without requiring you to fight dirty, write 9 inches, the comments, and declare, God turned it back. Let those words remind you that justice does not require you to become like the people who harmed you. The weight, now reaching them, was built by their own repetition. They did not send one attack and stop. Each time nothing happened to you, they added another. Each time you recovered, they returned with more. Every refusal to walk away increased what would eventually come back to them. One hidden act joined the next. One cruel intention was placed on top of another. By the time God closed the path to you, these two people had created a burden far heavier than anything they originally released. Now, they are not facing one consequence. They are facing the combined weight of every choice they repeated. What they sent once has returned through everything they added afterward. This is why the pressure feels multiplied. They built it themselves. One deliberate act at a time. One person may be trying to dismiss it as bad luck. The other may be searching desperately for an explanation, yet neither can ignore the timing. The pressure began rising when the attacks against you stopped producing the outcome they expected. They thought darkness moved only in one direction. They believed it could leave their hands, enter your life, and never return to its origin. But God never gave their actions permission to determine your destiny. The protection around you did more than keep you from being destroyed. It exposed the weakness of everything they trusted. Their spell work could not cancel God's decision. It could not remove his covering. It could not force heaven to surrender someone God had already chosen to defend. Now the confidence these two people once carried is disappearing. They have begun to dread the next sign that something has changed. They know the process has started, but they do not know where it will reach next. Every secret act carried their intention. Every repeated attempt carried their agreement. Every refusal to stop added more weight. Nothing was forgotten simply because it remained hidden from you. God saw it all. He saw what was requested. He saw what was performed. He saw how many times they returned to the same plan. He also saw the pain they expected you to carry while they remained untouched. But you were never appointed to carry the result of their wickedness. The burden returned to the place where it began. The darkness they tried to place over your path no longer had access to you. Now it is pressing against the lives of the two people who released it. They are frightened because they cannot redirect it. They cannot hide it beneath another attack. They cannot place it back onto you. God has closed that door. The full weight has returned. Their bodies and minds are beginning to reveal how much pressure has finally reached them. Number 4. Their health is failing and their minds are breaking. The pressure is no longer hidden. It is beginning to appear in their bodies. These two people wanted you weakened, exhausted, and unable to continue. Now they are the ones discovering what it feels like when strength begins to leave without permission. One of them may already be receiving frightening news about their health. A problem they expected to ignore is demanding attention. The body is no longer cooperating with the image they want to present. Rest does not restore them as it once did. They can tell something has changed, even when they try to convince others that everything is fine. The other person is struggling to keep control of the mind. Thoughts will not settle. Fear enters without warning. Questions repeat because no answer brings relief. The more they search for an explanation, the more confused they become. They wanted you awake with worry. Now, peaceful sleep has become difficult for them. They wanted you unable to trust your own thoughts. Now they are questioning every change around them. They wanted fear attached to your daily life. Now fear follows them into quiet rooms where there is no one left to impress. Their greatest problem is not a single symptom. It is the way physical weakness and mental pressure are arriving together. When the body becomes tired, the mind loses its ability to hide the fear. When the mind cannot rest, the body carries even more strain. They are caught inside a cycle they cannot control. One begins the day already drained. The other cannot stop thinking about what might happen next. Small changes feel like warnings. Ordinary discomfort becomes a reason to panic. Every unexpected call creates dread because they no longer expect good news. They are looking for reassurance, but reassurance does not remain. Someone may tell them there is nothing to fear. For a few moments, they pretend to believe it. Then the confusion returns. The body gives another signal. The thoughts begin racing again. What frightens them most is the timing. These problems did not begin while they believed their attacks were succeeding. They began when it became clear that you had not been destroyed. Your continued strength forced them to recognize what they had refused to consider. The harm did not land where they intended. Now they are becoming consumed by one question. If you were protected from everything they sent, what has happened to all of it? That question follows them through the day. It waits for them when the distractions end. They remember what they requested. They remember how many times they participated. They remember the confidence with which they believed nothing could return to them. The mind begins to break when there is no place left to hide from the truth. They cannot blame you because you did not retaliate. They cannot claim you caused their suffering because you remained away from their actions. They cannot explain why the person they targeted is still standing while their own stability is disappearing. They become increasingly suspicious of every change. They search for hidden causes while avoiding the one cause they already understand. Their thoughts turn against them because every memory leads back to what they did. Yet the physical decline cannot be argued away. Their bodies are carrying a warning. Their mouths do not want to confess. They may hide it for a time. They may smile around others or dismiss the concern. But behind that appearance, they know their health is not what it was. God did not ask you to cause this. God did not require your revenge. You were instructed to keep walking while justice dealt with what remained behind you. These two people once believed they could place sickness, confusion, and despair over your life. Now their own bodies are weakening, their minds are losing peace, and neither of them knows how to stop what has already begun. Number 5. They begin losing everything they took for granted. The consequences do not remain limited to their bodies and minds. The structure around their lives is beginning to change. Things they once considered permanent no longer feel secure. People they assumed would always remain close are becoming harder to reach. The support they depended on is weakening. These two people took many blessings for granted. They treated loyalty as something they were owed. They expected others to protect them without asking questions. They believed the life surrounding them would remain stable no matter what they did in secret. Now that confidence is being removed. Relationships that once provided comfort begin to feel distant. Conversations become shorter. Familiar support is no longer offered so freely. The people around them may not understand everything that happened, but they can sense something is wrong. They no longer respond with the same trust. This loss is especially painful because these two people believed they could harm you without disturbing anything in their own lives. They expected your world to change while theirs remained untouched. They wanted you isolated while they remained surrounded. They wanted you deprived while they continued enjoying what they valued. But the balance is changing. The blessings they failed to appreciate are no longer behaving like possessions they can command. They are learning that relationships require truth. Support cannot survive endless deception. Peace cannot remain where hidden cruelty is repeatedly welcomed. Things that once brought happiness now carry tension. A familiar relationship becomes strained. A source of comfort no longer feels dependable. The way of life they considered normal begins shifting beneath them. They may try to hold everything together through appearances. They may continue presenting the image that nothing has changed. Yet behind that image, important connections are weakening. The life they want others to see no longer matches the life they are experiencing. There may also be a deeply personal loss involving someone or something they care about. It could touch a family connection or a beloved companion. The pain of that possibility frightens them because it reaches an area they believe their actions could never affect. This should not become a reason for you to celebrate another person's grief. Loss is still painful. God is not calling you to rejoice over suffering. The meaning lies in the lesson they refuse to accept. No one can repeatedly desire destruction for another person and expect every cherished part of their own life to remain untouched. They wanted you to feel abandoned. Now they are learning what it means when support begins withdrawing. They wanted you to watch important things disappear. Now they are holding tighter to people and comforts they once treated carelessly. The speed of these changes leaves them unsettled. One loss would have been difficult enough, but the support, relationships, stability, and joy they relied upon are all being affected within the same period. They are discovering that blessings are not proof that God approves of every hidden action. The absence of immediate loss never meant heaven accepted what they were doing. It only meant they had time to stop before their choices reached everything connected to them. They used that time to continue. Now the life they once considered protected is no longer responding in the same way. People are pulling back. Comfort is fading. What once felt dependable is becoming uncertain. These two people wanted to strip your life of everything meaningful. Instead, they are watching their own blessings slip beyond their control, and the protection they assumed would always cover them is the next thing God is preparing to remove. Number 6. God removes their protection and orders them to leave you alone. For a long time, these two people mistook delay for protection. Because consequences did not arrive immediately, they assumed something was covering them. They believed they could continue attacking you and still keep every advantage that made them feel secure. But what they called protection was only time. God gave them time to stop, time to reconsider, time to step away from the hidden work they had chosen. Instead, they used that time to repeat the same behavior. Now the covering they imagined around themselves is gone. They can no longer depend on the same support to escape responsibility. The doors that once gave them another way out are closing. The excuses that once calmed their fear no longer work. Each person is being left to face what their own choices created. This is divine justice, restoring a balance they deliberately disturbed. They wanted you exposed while they remained hidden. They wanted you vulnerable while they felt protected. They wanted you separated from God's guidance while they continued benefiting from blessings they did not respect. God is reversing that arrangement. The path to you is being closed. They are being told to leave you alone. No more hidden attacks. No more attempts to reach into your future. No more returning to the same plan because the last attempt failed. They may still think about trying again. Fear may push them to search for another method. But they no longer have the access they once believed belonged to them. God has placed a boundary they cannot negotiate. If you know God has ended the access of people who repeatedly harmed you, write 777 in the comments and declare, God is my defender. Let that declaration remind you that you do not have to reopen a door God closed for your protection. You are being allowed to walk away without carrying the outcome they prepared. Their plan did not become your identity. Their spell work did not become your future. Their hidden agreement did not become the final decision over your life. You may remember the pressure. You may still be healing from the confusion it caused. But the destination they intended for you does not belong to you. God intercepted it before it could complete their purpose. These two people are now learning that access to you was never a permanent right. They abused every opening. They treated your compassion as weakness. They mistook your silence for permission to continue. Now heaven has answered for you. The warning is no longer gentle. They must stop. They must withdraw. They must leave behind the person God has removed from their reach. This does not require you to contact them or explain what has changed. You do not need to announce the boundary. You do not need to prove that God protected you. Their inability to reach the outcome they wanted is already the evidence. Do not return out of guilt. Do not let sympathy convince you to stand beneath consequences that were never assigned to you. You can care about another person's soul without volunteering to carry the result of their decisions. God is separating you from what belongs to them. Their judgment is not your burden. Their fear is not your instruction to go back. Their loss of protection is not a request for you to become their shield. They were told to leave you alone. You are being told to keep walking. The door behind you is closing. The road ahead is clearing. What they sent can no longer follow you into the future God is preparing. Their access has ended, and your new beginning is already waiting beyond their reach. God clears your path and opens a new beginning. The removal of these two people is not the end of your life. It is the end of the obstruction they tried to place in front of it. God did not preserve you merely to leave you standing in the same place. He preserved you because there is still something ahead that requires your faith, wisdom, and willingness to move. The path feels different now. The pressure that once followed every decision is lifting. You are beginning to think clearly again. You no longer have to spend your strength defending yourself against attacks you could not explain. That strength can now be directed toward building. Plans you were forced to delay can receive your attention again. Gifts you placed aside can be used with confidence. The prayers you whispered when no one understood what you were facing are still before God. None of them were lost beneath the noise created around you. God heard you. He heard the prayers for peace. He heard you ask for direction. He heard you when you needed protection, but did not know the names of the people working against you. The answer was already moving before you could see it. This new beginning will require your participation. God opens the path, but you must be willing to walk it. He gives direction, but you must take the next faithful step. You are not being called to live forever as the person who survived an attack. You are being called to become the person who builds after deliverance. If you are ready to stop looking behind you and receive what God is opening ahead, write Amen in the comments. Let that word become your declaration. I am ready for my new beginning. God may also bring someone trustworthy into your life. This person will not need your weakness in order to feel powerful. They will respect what God is building through you. They may offer protection, practical support, or the kind of steady partnership that allows something meaningful to grow. Do not force that connection or assign a name to it too quickly. Let character reveal what words cannot prove. The right person will not arrive carrying the same confusion God just removed. You are entering a time of rebuilding with clearer judgment. What you create now will not be controlled by the two people who tried to interfere. They do not get to decide how far you go. They do not receive a place in the future they attempted to destroy. Their consequences remain behind them. Your responsibility is ahead. Keep your heart free from revenge. You do not need to watch their decline to confirm God defended you. The clearest evidence will be the peace returning to your own life. It will be the strength in your decisions. It will be the doors opening without their permission. They tried to cover your path in darkness. God removed what they placed there. They tried to separate you from your future. God carried you through the attack and returned you to the road they could not cancel. Now, walk forward. Build carefully. Pray before every decision. Protect the access God restored. What they sent could not stop you. What returned to them cannot follow you. Your path is clear. Your future still belongs to God. And your new beginning has already begun.